Welcome, book nerds, to the Marriage Stories podcast. I'm Bradley.
And I'm Bekah.
And if you're here looking for marriage advice,
all we got is couples that read together, breed together.
welcome to the Marriage Stories podcast. I'm Bradley.
I'm Bekah.
And this is the second time we had to do this because I said the name of our podcast wrong.
Yeah, plus why do we even say this? Because we already have the stinger opening.
We're just being very welcoming toward our audience of 5 people.
Welcome, welcome, welcome!
Yeah, we want to be friendly. We want them to listen. We want them to tell others.
Yeah, spread the word.
Spread the word. So, Bekah, what do you read?
I am currently reading The Return by Rachel Harrison, and I have binged like half of that book today. Oh my word. I am going to go out there and say that Rachel Harrison trumps even Stephen King when it comes to writing jump scares.
Okay.
Like making you feel that childhood feeling of something being in your closet or underneath your bed. I have read 2 of Rachel Harrison's books so far, and she does an excellent job of writing just those little back creepy crawling jump scares.
Well, if it's back creeping crawling, then it's not a jump scare.
There's jump scares like it'll be like, oh, something moved and it ran under my bed, or I looked in the mirror and there was this. And
okay.
Or that kind of thing. I consider that a jump scare. Or,
giving you.
Yeah, giving me a jump scare. Like, this thing is rattling the doorknob, or she turned around and her teeth were all sharp and yellow.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, if you were watching it as a movie, it would be like a jump scare to you.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, Rachel Harrison's The Return is what I'm reading. What are you currently reading?
I'm reading Master of the Void by Wend Raven. A book was actually sent to me by the author. I'm very excited to read it. I'm about 50, 60 pages into it. I haven't gotten to really sit down and get into it, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's a high fantasy book, lots of different magics, so I'm already invested, and I think it's going to be a good read.
We kind of have a relationship to the author. She's a friend of a friend of a friend.
Very tangentially, yes.
Yeah. Well, current reads are not often considered the great American novels, but...
What if I choose to read one? Then it would be a current read. So we were recently listening to Brandon Sanderson's podcast, and they were talking about the great American novel and what that really meant and what could qualify as that. That got us thinking, we're going to steal that idea, and we're going to talk about it on our podcast.
Yeah, it's not stealing. It's a concept that anyone and everyone could ponder, so we just took inspiration from their episode. They don't own the idea of the great American novel.
Yet.
Well, yeah, he'll probably start a Kickstarter about it. So, what is, in your opinion, the qualities that a great American novel must have, non-negotiable?
So we were talking about this, and I think we decided on the book has to be by an American author.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be, at least in some way, about America.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to represent the cultural milieu of a time period in the U.S.
Yeah, I think it has to take place in the U.S.
Okay, you can say it like that, or you can use the term cultural milieu.
Mm-hmm. Or you can just say it captures the emotions surrounding American culture.
We've each come up with a list of 5 books that we've read that we think would qualify for the contention of the great American novel in some way or other, and we have to defend these.
Yep. We have to defend them to each other. Now, just to clarify here, to start off, are we gonna share, like, you're gonna share all 5, and then I'm gonna share all 5, or are we going back and forth?
I say we go back and forth for
Okay.
entertainment's sake.
And also, are yours in any particular order?
No particular order.
Mine aren't either. Good.
Okay. So, one thing I noticed going through all these books thinking, okay, what could qualify, is I kept thinking, ooh, how about that one? No, that's British. Nope, that one's British. And so that
So
really...
what were a few of those?
Well, I was thinking like, well, Lord of the Rings would be... And
No.
like, oh, no, that's obviously British.
Also, how does that... It doesn't take place in America at all.
Well, it doesn't, but it captures the cultural milieu of...
Does it?
I don't know.
You just wanted to have Lord of the Rings.
I want to feel deep and use the word milieu.
What does milieu mean? Spell milieu.
I couldn't do that. Another one I thought of was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Like, ooh, that's a good one.
Again.
Well, I quickly realized that is a British novel.
And it does not take place.
Well, that's part of the reason it's a British novel.
Well, but it doesn't take place in Britain either.
Yes, it does.
No, it's in space.
The first 30 pages are in London.
Okay. I still love you.
Oh, thanks, babe. So I'll go with my first, or just one of them here. I said Slaughterhouse-Five.
Okay.
Could take the place of the, quote, great American novel.
Alright, I'm going to play devil's advocate on that one. None of it takes place in America.
Yes, it does. A good majority of it does.
Okay, well, none of it that I remember takes place in.
His whole life, other than the war in Tralfamadore, takes place
all I remember is the war.
Well, in Tralfamadore.
Right.
But yeah, it's an American novel. I'd say it could qualify as it. It is a genre bender for sure. It is sci-fi. It is... that's not horror, but it's historical. Yeah. It's a war story. It's really a good mix of everything, and it really captures the just confusion of America at that time. And Kurt Vonnegut fought in the war at that time, and he suffered PTSD as a result, and that was a big effect on a lot of Americans who fought in the war. Still is today. So I think it really embraces that culture and really serves as a bit of a snapshot of America in that time.
I can see that. You consider that one of your favorite novels of all time, yes?
Yes, it bounces around in my top 5, but it's always in the top 5.
Okay. I would like to put up The Scarlet Letter.
Okay, solid choice.
So, it was probably my favorite quote-unquote classic that we read in high school.
Really?
Yep. At the time, I liked it better than To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay.
And the more I got to thinking about it in this context as the great American novel, it is an allegory for the creation of America. Because the whole thing is Hester Prynne and the priest had sexual relations, and she bore the child of said taboo relationship. One of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why America decided to separate itself from being a British colony was they were done with Catholicism, and they wanted it, and they wanted separation of church and state, let's say.
Yeah.
So, not necessarily just Catholicism, but they wanted separation of church and state. And so this whole book wrestles with the way the whole entire town reacts to this quote-unquote crime, and this whole woman's life having to wear the letter A for adultery, but for America, looked down upon for kind of breaking the rules of the time. And at the time of the creation of America, separation of church and state was seen as very taboo. It was seen as if you truly had faith and you truly were a Christian and believer, then it should be a part of absolutely everything. And there is no separation of church and state. And it's still something that our culture wrestles with a lot today. And with the religious. Milieu
Boom.
of America, and
Buzzword.
I just really think that it is a very interesting character study as well as legal study as well as cultural study. I put forth the Scarlet Letter.
All right, that is a solid choice. I don't think you'll find anyone really willing to argue with that. So for my next one, I'm going to go with a Stephen King book.
Oh dear.
What?
Okay, he's a great American author.
He
I mean,
is.
he is.
He is probably America's best author right now,
But
or
if any of
most
his
prolific.
but if any of his books are the cultural milieu of America, we're doomed.
Well, so I went with, on this one, I was torn between two. I was either going to go with Needful Things, which I just finished, which was a very good read, and it's basically a character study on a small town, small town America. That one would have been good. I guess Billy Summers would have worked really well. A veteran coming back from the war, and the only job he can find to do is be a hitman. But I went with 11/22/63.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that is
That's
if
actually a great one to put forth.
wow, you sound surprised.
Well, I was thinking you were gonna say The Shining or
Well,
something.
The Shining Wood is a great book, but it's not really that cultural
No,
touchstone
but
of a.
yeah, no, go on. That's a great thought.
Thank you. But 11/22/63 involves. I mean, I believe it's the longest King has worked on a book because he started it, I believe, back in the 70s and if not the 60s, and didn't publish it until the 2010s.
Tell people what it's about.
Well, I'm about to.
Okay.
No, I'm just going to leave them hanging. It's a book. Uh, so, the premise of this book is a man's given the ability to travel back in time. And because of the person who traveled or who discovered this, has been trying for years to go back in time and stop the JFK assassination. And so this man, after that man passes, your main character chooses to continue on that journey and try to prevent the assassination. So you get really two time periods, some sci-fi time travel stuff, and this I would say is Stephen King's romance book as well. It's a very well written romance. Um, it really captures the 60s. I mean, it's a time I wasn't alive for, but King puts you there and you feel there.
I need to read that one. It's just so stinking big.
It's an 800 plus page book and it is fantastic. The ending is phenomenal. You will cry. But it is, yeah, it's definitely in contention. I'll submit that one.
Okay. I haven't read that one, so I feel like I can't play devil's advocate, but from what I know about it from pop culture and you talking about it, I think it's a good submission. All right. I now put forth Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Little Women is a coming of age story, which I feel like coming of age is very much an American contemporary fiction mechanism. A lot
Yeah.
of British contemporary fiction, there are some coming of ages, but a lot of them start of age, um, or stay in childhood. I think coming of age was very popularized, I'll put it that way, by American authors. And Little Women is iconic uh, for a coming of age story set in America that was done in the popular style of British novels at the time, like Pride and Prejudice and uh, anything by the Bronte sisters. In fact, so many people are surprised to learn before they've ever read the book or anything that it is by an American author that takes place in America.
I mean, I was when we saw the movie. I
Mm-hmm.
kept expecting them to have British accents and was very confused.
Yeah, no, it takes place outside of Boston. And it is about a mother who is raising her four daughters as her husband is off fighting in the Civil War. And it is from the point of view of Jo March. And in this, it is a very progressive feminist novel for its time, in that all these girls have career aspirations and are encouraged to have those career aspirations by their mother. And also, Louisa May Alcott herself really fought for her main character to not end up married in the end. In order to publish her book, they made her do that. The most recent adaptation of the movie really portrays that very well. But it was a very progressive book for women at the time. And talked a lot about what it was to be a girl growing up in rural America, not necessarily poor, not necessarily rich, just your average American family during this time. And even though it is set in Civil War times, I would say that its parallels to growing up as a girl in America today are still very, very true. And it is very relatable. And no, it is not just for women.
So these women,
Mm-hmm.
how
No.
little are they? They
Stop.
like scary little?
Stop with the Friends
That is the
references.
best quote from Friends. I will.
Is it really? No.
It's one of them. My favorites, anyway.
Oh my. Little Women is like my favorite book of all time.
I still do need to read that one. The movie, back in 20, was it 19?
19. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. It was very well done, and I enjoyed it a lot.
I'm
I've
gonna
seen it
cry
like
just
20
thinking
times
about
because of
it.
you.
My son is named Theodore Lawrence. Just
Not because of this movie, book, whatever it is.
let you tell yourself that.
Okay, I picked the name.
Mm.
So moving right along. My next pick for a great American novel is No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy.
Okay.
So this is set, I'm not sure the exact time period, but I'd say it's mid 1900s. Maybe a little more recent than that. I haven't read this book in a bit, but I do quite enjoy it, and the movie's equally as good.
I have not read or seen the movie.
So it's basically, I mean, it's kind of reminiscing on the West and the how the West has become what it is today.
Is it
And
a western?
in a sense, it is.
Hmm.
It's just a very interesting study on characters, on people. Your Cormac McCarthy has a way of writing in very short, crisp dialogue that it's not prosaic, I wouldn't say, but it's very efficient. It's bluntly efficient. You get all the points across, and then he lets his writing take care of the imagery. And it's really very well done, really a snapshot of time in the West. It's kind of searching for, hoping for that older time of when the West was the West and what it's become now. And I very much enjoy that. I think it'd be a solid pick for a great American novel.
Okay. I really knew nothing about that one. I have no idea why, but I thought it was like a war movie slash book.
Nope.
Hmm. So I do also really like that title, "No Country for
It's
Old
a good
Men."
title.
Like, I mean, I feel like that's a very American thing to be like, "Oh, the good old days."
It is, and that's kind of what this captures.
Cool. I put forth The Glass Castle by Jeanette Waltz. Now, this is actually a memoir. Um, However, it is, I think, the best book I've read about the American dream and the pursuit of the American dream. It is from the point of view of a young girl, I'd say in her preteens, as her father moves them all around the US. I mean, I think throughout this book they live in California, Arizona, to West Virginia. Like, because he is constantly running from each scammed business he tried to start to become the next big rich millionaire. Which, if you think of it, that was the American dream.
Oh, sure.
Invent something and you will have wealth forever and ever more. However, for those trying to invent something 24/7, that the things they were trying to invent weren't all that great, they often became con men,
Hmm.
and had to end up running from one town to the next because of it. And their families were just kind of at their whims. And however, I love, 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 love that it takes place, or it takes the point of view of the daughter who just thinks the world of her father, even though the event she's describing, he's a hot mess, but she thinks he's amazing and she thinks he's going to be the best new inventor and everything. But then as she ages, you are right there with her as she discovers that her father is flawed and human. And that point in each of our lives where we realize that our parents are flawed and human. Not like when you're a teenager and you just don't like them. No, the real, like, oh, my parents are people realizations. That is something that is very difficult to write and pinpoint, I think. And this book does it very well, at the same time really capturing that cliche American dream pursuit. And Jeanette Walls herself actually kind of did get the American dream, because she is a reporter, I think for the New York Times, but so she made it from that impoverished childhood, always chasing the next thing, to becoming the next thing. So
I've heard you talk about that one a lot, and I know you very much enjoy that
I
book.
need to see the movie that
Oh,
came
there's a
out
movie?
about it. Yeah, recently.
Who's in it?
I don't know.
Hmm.
I'll look while you say
Okay.
your next book.
So my next one will go with one that I read very recently is Ring Shout by P. Jelly
Mm.
Clark.
Yeah, you
So
did talk a lot about that one.
yeah, so I did a full review of this on my Instagram page and talked about it in a prior episode, but I'll just give you the quick and dirty of this is it's a historical fantasy set in the early 1900s South, where a group of ex-slaves and free black people hunt Ku Kluxes, which are KKK members who've been turned into monsters. It's so well done, and it really captures that racial tension going on in the U.S. back then, especially, and even still now. It's super well done. I really like Clark's work. He does a great job. Always go back and listen to another episode to hear more about it, but it's a great one. I think it would be a solid contender for the Great American Novel.
I've heard you talk about that one a lot recently, especially because it is in your top books for the last quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds very interesting for sure.
It definitely is.
Here I am to say that this actually has a really big cast.
Oh, holy cow.
Yeah. And wow, I cannot think of anyone better than Woody Harrelson to play Rex, the father. But Brie Larson is Jeanette Walls as an
Jeanette
adult.
Walls.
Yeah. So yeah,
Max Greenfield from New Girl.
as and Naomi Watts as one of her sisters, or no, I'd say that's her mother. Naomi Watts is her mother. So yeah, it's got a pretty big cast, and it's available on Netflix. So we should go watch it.
We don't have Netflix.
We don't.
Nope, it's the only one we don't have.
We don't have it anymore.
Nope, because they kept jumping the price.
Bummer.
Don't worry, we'll watch it sometime.
Okay. Okay. I put forth Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver.
Okay.
It is one I read just last month, and it actually yesterday was announced the 2023 Pulitzer Prize winner.
Oh, wow.
It is the second ever Appalachian novel to ever win the Pulitzer Prize.
With Good Earth being the other?
No, I that's what I thought too. I had never even heard of the other. It was written in 58, and I forget the name. I was looking it up, but A Death in the Family. I recognized the title when I
Not
looked
the
it up,
Batman story, right?
no, I'd say the Batman story is parodying A Death in the Family by James Agee.
Well, at least stealing the name of.
Right, yeah. So, it's a memoir, but
So it's not where the Joker beats the Robin to death.
no, it
Okay.
is the only other Pulitzer Prize winning Appalachian novel.
Okay.
Now, go drop everything and read Demon Copperhead right now, and you'll hate me for it because.
You're really selling this book.
Oh no, I know, but geez, it's so depressing. And sadly, it captures the cultural milieu of
Buzzword.
No, we're trying to use that as many times as we can in this.
I know, but I have to say boom, buzzword every time.
Okay.
That'll be what this episode's called.
Oh no.
Boom.
I thought it was going to be called cultural milieu.
It could be either one.
I think it should be cultural milieu.
Or cultural milieu, boom, buzzword.
Okay, anyways. So, Demon Copperhead follows a boy. Demon Copperhead is his name.
His name's Demon?
Yes.
Well, what did his parents think he was going to...
His name is Damon.
Okay.
But everybody calls him Demon. And Copperhead is because he has bright red fiery hair. But he doesn't really have a real true heritage or background last name because of the way he was brought into this world. He is born to a teen mom in a very bad, abusive, trailer druggy situation in Virginia, the Central Appalachians. And it follows him through foster care. It follows him through the coming of age just of rural schools, and sadly accurately so. And it follows him to the struggles of the opioid crisis, which I would argue is the largest crisis facing America today, is the drug war and war on drugs and addiction. And it really makes you see how, especially for an outsider, how the slow fade occurs. The horrors of the foster care system, the devastation of this land that was just used up by the government and left to fend for itself. And the after effects of that, here, take this pill and you'll feel better. It is, you're reading through it and you're like, man, what more could happen? But it is so accurate. It is very poignant. It is fierce. It is a very, very well done novel. And as a Appalachian myself, I think it's a very important read for Appalachians and non Appalachians alike. And as Appalachia is a very large part of America, it all the way from New York to Mississippi, I feel like it qualifies as a great American novel.
I mean, and it's a Pulitzer Prize winner
It
for
is.
sure. I know that your sister, she's a school teacher in southern West Virginia, read this as well, and she had a really hard time reading it, but was very glad she did.
Yeah, she had a hard time reading it because she just kept thinking of the homes that her students go back to after she has them in the classroom. And it is hard. And I kept thinking of people that I grew up with and everything. It's very difficult, but it is extremely eye opening, and because of that, it is an important read.
For our last pick, we have the same one, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going with Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird.
Absolutely. So, why did you put forth this novel?
Well, in my opinion, To Kill a Mockingbird is one of the best novels ever written. Yes, it was written in the when was it written?
60.
In the 60s?
It was 1960.
1960. It was written in 1960. So, yes, it's outdated in a lot of ways, but it still captures America. It captures things like, I mean, back with what I was talking about with Ring Shout, it captures the racial tensions in the South. It and how you can rise above that.
More so than just the racial tensions, it also talks about family life. It talks about class differences.
Mm-hmm.
It it talks about neighborly culture in the American South.
And not so neighborly culture in the American South.
Right, and it talks about the American legal system.
Right.
I feel like courtroom dramas are very American. And it's a courtroom drama.
I mean, it
It
is.
is a courtroom drama. It is a coming of age. It is a commentary on race, and class, and on the legal system of America. And written, though now over 80 years ago, it is still very accurate. Over 60 years ago. Math, y'all, not my thing. I read. Um, over 60 years ago, it is still relevant, I'd say. Now, this book is often banned as of late for prolific use of the N word throughout this book.
And I mean, I understand if that's something that bothers you, then yeah, that's a legitimate complaint.
Yes, absolutely. I think that you could very easily reprint the book changing that word,
I mean, sure.
but it does also change the book. I mean, the book was written in 1960, and the book is not using that term without thought. It
Yeah.
is using it to capture the attitude toward racism at that time and in that culture. And it is accurate for the time that it was written.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's a profound novel. It's a touchstone of American literature. Like it or not, it is.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And we both feel it definitely deserves to be in contention for the great American novel.
Absolutely. So, what do you think is a contender for the great American novel? Lots of people also say Gatsby,
Yes.
Huck Finn,
Mm-hmm.
um, Moby Dick. These are all other popular things if you are to just Google what's the great American
All
novel.
genuinely American novels.
I mean,
Um,
Great Gatsby, I almost put on my list as
I almost
well.
did too,
So,
but I wanted to go with some
different
wilder
ones.
picks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Some more
The
unorthodox.
books don't have to be old to be great.
That's very true.
We'll end on that.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.
Keep reading, y'all.